you're gonna break into. Up on you.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. Across the web, on Fight Now TV, and on radio stations around the world. It's the only daily boxing talk radio show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
We're coming to you live from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero. It's time for Talking Boxing with Billy C. Good morning, good day, good evening. And whenever you're listening, hope you're doing all right. We got a busy show scheduled for today. But first, the show's being brought to you in part by Camp and Aaron Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That is Camp and Aaron Tomkovich. Give them a call today, 845-221-4099. 845-221-4099. The show's also being brought to you in part by the Halftime Bar and Grill, Route 9, South Glens Falls. Hey, man, if you like cool people to hang with, if you like drink specials all the time, if you like live entertainment on Friday and Saturday nights, and if you like to stuff your face with some great food, you're going to love the Halftime Bar and Grill. Give them a call right now for directions or a reservation. 518-792-4869, 518-792-4869, Halftime Bar and Grill. And the show's being brought to you in part by Ringside.com. That's right, for all your boxing equipment needs, there's only one place to go, and that's Ringside.com. Check them out right now, www.ringside.com. Don't forget to mention Billy C and demand the Billy C discount. You'll get it. You've got to ask for it. They're not going to just give it to you. You got to ask for it. And don't forget, for all of you, gym owners or trainers or anyone else who likes to buy boxing equipment in bulk, make sure you drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com, and I'll get you even a bigger and better discount at Ringside.com. Ringside.com is the official boxing equipment supplier of the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. So, coming up a little bit, we got Scotty Krause. Scott Krause, we'll see what's going on with him. Next week, Scotty and I are going to do another one of our greatest fight series, so that's one of my favorite segments. We like to do it at least once a month. Next week, we got my man Tony Treen and I are going to be doing a heavyweight spotlight. Max Schmeling is going to be the focal point. We're going to shine that spotlight on him. We're going to do that as a request. The bottom line is we're also going to be doing some other stuff with Tony, and we're going to be doing the debut of our roundtable show, which we're gonna give you an idea what that's going to be like. That's going to be coming up next week. But how about today? How about Scotty Krause joining us a little bit? How about Alex Papali and myself doing a blast from the past on Marlon Starlin, former world welterweight champion. He's a Billy C. Boxing Hall of Famer, and he should be an International Boxing Hall of Famer. We're going to be talking about him, and the bottom line is we're also going to have Marlon come on. So make sure. We're hoping that he wakes up. Hold on, we're hoping that he wakes up. We'll be trying to wake his ass up, and we'll be getting him on the show here in a second. So anyway, that's what's coming up. In case you missed it, we are launching a new show, and it's called Billy C's Talk to Me, Man, and it's going to debut on Monday, and it's going to start at 1 p.m. Eastern. So that means everybody on the East Coast, they're at lunchtime, hopefully, and you can listen to the show live at the office or wherever, on your phone, in the car, at McDonald's. I hope you're not eating there. Or if you're on the East Coast, if you're on the West Coast, you're just getting into work, just having your coffee and bagel, so you're not doing nothing. So tune in the show. It's totally going to be driven by you, the boxing fan. That's right. We're going to talk about all the discussions and all that stuff when you call in or drop us an email. So we're looking forward to that. Speaking of emails, I'm going to read some right now. Carla from Long Island. Hey, I'm from Long Island. She says, I hope it's a she. She says, I just got into boxing. She says, I got into boxing for fitness and now have become to love the sport. I want to know more about the history. Any suggestions on books? She says, by the way, I love your mustache. Is it soft? Well, Carla, we can set up a time for you to see if it's soft or not. But as far as the books, we got a section. You got to check out the BillyCBoxing.com website. On the left-hand side, there's a section called the Billy C Book Club, and in it, we have all the books that I support, and I think that's a great place for you to start. I will tell you this: there's a book that I'm actually, aside from my book, everybody should order my book, which incidentally we are still taking pre-orders on that. I am working on trying to get a cover. And that's the only thing holding us up with the publisher right now. But the bottom line is there is another book that I highly recommend, especially if you're looking to get some history. You might as well start off with a golden era, and that's the 1920s. And my man, who I've become pretty tight with, Ian Grumeza, he was on this show, and he did a book called The Gentleman Boxer, and it's actually focused on Joe Grimm, who was a fighter of the 20s. But he also talks about a lot of other fighters in that era, which was a raw, just like the Roaring 20s. So was the boxing scene, especially in New York. I highly recommend that book. You can get it by visiting our book club, or right on the front page of BillyCBoxing.com. You'll see a link for it, and that's going to take you right to where you can order the book. Now, if you're one of these people that like to get autographed copies and stuff, I'll see what I can do. I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. And maybe we can get Ian to send you a signed copy. So definitely do that. And rumor has it that there's going to be a second printing of that book. Obviously the sales are going well, and we want to help the second printing go even better. So make sure you get that one. Add that one first, Carla. And drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. And we could talk about that mustache thing. Thanks for the email. The next email I have is from Tom. Tom. Every time, I don't know if you guys remember that comedian. Oh, geez, what was his name? Bob something. And he used to do this little skit, and he used to play these football players. And he would come out and he'd put a helmet on crooked, and he'd walk up to the microphone and go, Tom. Every time I hear that name, I think of Tom. I'm number 72. 27, Anyway, Tom says, I've become a huge fan of your show, and you. Oh, I've become, actually, it says, I have become a huge fan of you and your show. I'm reading things backwards today. I need reading glasses, all right? That's what it is. I'm getting old, and I'm having a hard time reading these emails because we print them out. They come on these pieces of paper that I can hardly see, And if I take these, I don't want bifocals. It's bad enough being a grandfather with the title of a grandfather. Next thing bifocals. When am I going to get a cane and a friggin' wheelchair next? I mean, come on, man. Anyway, Tom says, I've become a huge fan of you and your show. I appreciate that, Tom. He says, I live in Las Vegas and have heard you hint that you will be here at some point. This is true. We have been dropping a little hints here and there. He says, last night, while surfing the tube, this has to be a younger guy, because guys like my age, we go, I was flipping through the channels, and I guess you don't flip through channels anymore. You surf through the tube. He says, I was surfing the tube, and I saw a commercial. For your show on Vegas TV, which is a local channel. Are you coming out here? If so, when? Keep up the good work. You have saved the sport of boxing. Wow, Tom, I appreciate the accolade. This is the third person that has mentioned that they've seen a commercial for our show on Vegas television, which it doesn't surprise me. What surprises me is where they're getting it. They haven't talked to me, but I would be curious to know how many other places are advertising our show. We are Fight Now TV has been expanding, so it's probably through them. And as far as coming out to Vegas, yes, that is in our plans. We have been discussing it. It's not anything that is a secret or anything like that. We are definitely going to be out there, and the sooner the better. So, Tom, if you're in Las Vegas, talk about the show and anybody that will listen, and make sure that you can tell them that we're on our way out, and we can't wait to get out there. So, hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, I got a couple more email. At least got one more email to read. Then we got Scotty Krause coming up. We got Alex Papali and myself. We're going to be talking about Marlon Starlin. And Marlon Starlin himself should be joining us a little bit. I also got some boxing news that I'm dying to get out. Something about my man, Jack Johnson. So we'll be talking about all of that in about 2.
If you're in upstate New York and you need a trucking company, then you need Roselli Enterprises. Roselli Enterprises is trucking at its finest. They have it all. Dump trucks, dump trailers, walk-in floors, flatbeds, flow boys, tankers, loaders, and a full line of roll-off containers for any job, big or small. Roselli Enterprises is also the source for all your sand, gravel, and topsoil needs. Visit them on the web at RoselliTrucking.com or call 315-433-5115. That's 315-433-5115 and tell them Billy C sent you.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
We've got a great matchup tonight. Fighting out of the left corner is the #1 ranked contender.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I am the IBO computer. I am programmed to provide only fair and unbiased boxing rankings. This fighter is the number 15 ranked contender.
Fair and unbiased boxing rankings? That's a new concept.
Actually, it is not. The IBO has provided unbiased computerized rankings for many years.
Well, we've still got a great fight tonight, folks. In the left corner is the number 15 ranked contender.
The IBO, the champion of integrity. Learn more at iboboxing.com.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you. I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
As a young boy, all Billy C. dreamed about was one day having his own catchphrase.
And we're back. And we're back.
One boy, one dream, one day, everyone will say.
And we're back. 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 And we're back.
Catchphrase coming soon to a theater near you.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You're watching a replay on LDL TV. Glad you could join us. Speaking of LDL TV, don't forget about April 13th. That's right, man. Sal Sinicola returns to the ring after 25 years. Come back to reality tour. Come back to reality, Sal. And speaking of which, I'm going to be doing a Change My Mind with Sal. Sal's going to try to change my mind on this whole thing. Hey, listen, don't get me wrong. I can't wait for the show because I'm going to be doing the blow-by-blow. And we're going to be broadcasting it on LDL TV, and everybody can see it for free on their stream, ldltv.com, on April 13th. But honestly, it's like my man Greg Haugen says, it's a young man's sport. It's a young man's sport. And, what's going on with Sal is he's trying to beat Father Time, I guess. And he's going to try to change my mind about that outlook tomorrow night on LDL TV. So check it out, www.ldltv, for all the times and everything else. Change My Mind. It's a great show. We've got nothing but great accolades on that show. So anyway, I got one more email I'm going to read. And by the way, Billy C's Talk to Me, Man airs beginning Monday, so keep the emails coming. We are going to continue to have the emails here on this show, but we need more time to bring on our contributors and special guests and the news and all that happy stuff. So therefore, we've dedicated a show just for you, to express your feelings, your comments, your concerns, your pros, your cons, whatever you want. It's an open platform for you as long as you behave and act professionally. That's all we ask. Everything else is free to you to do. So BillyCBoxing.com, 1 p.m. Eastern. Monday, the phone lines will be open for you to call or drop us an email at talktome at BillyCBoxing.com. Alex T., the other Alex, says about Mario Ronaldo. He says, I don't care for his style, but I don't necessarily blame him. I blame the executives that put him in that position. He's got that phony broadcaster voice, which I can't stand. Me neither. It's like, hey there, radio. I can't even do it right now, but, ringside.com. That's my radio voice. He says, Farhad, Tompkins, Bernstein, they can all call the fight in their normal voice. Probably the same way they speak about everything throughout the day. Same as Larry DeMerchant. And I agree with that. I know Al Bernstein. I've done a couple of shows with him. He sat right next to me. I talked to him. And he talks the same way in real life as he does on TV. So does Harold Letterman. So does, I don't like him, but so does Jim Lampley, all these guys. But that Mario Ronaldo, you're right. It's a perfect description. That's his radio voice. Anyway, he says Ronaldo has amped up the phony Joe Buck thing. Joe Buck is a great example of somebody doing a radio voice. And he, did you ever notice the way he looks over and he kind of gives the camera a little wink? He's as plastic as some women I know. He says, we don't need that in boxing. The execs just need to make competitive bouts. If you make good fights, everything else falls into place. I agree with that 100%. The fans will tune it in. The fans will tune in. The ratings will go up. Advertisers will invest. The sport doesn't need gimmicks. Ronaldo is just doing what he does, and it's what has made him successful. But I just wish he'd tune it down a bit. This isn't the World Boxing Federation. Is that where this guy came from? Somebody else said that he has a wrestling background. Listen, man, I can't stand commentators that yell at me. You know, I get yelled at enough. I don't need commentators to yell at me. So, anyway, I agree with him. He does do a radio voice, and it's pretty sickening, to be honest with you. But anyway, some news I want to talk about. The politicians are pushing for my man Jack Johnson to get pardoned again. You know, I'm torn between this because you know it happened so long ago, almost 100 years ago, and actually 100 years ago. And, you know, when he was convicted. And the guy served his time, you know. It's just like something that they want to right a wrongdoing. But the poor guy's been, you know, he's you know, looking at the grass from a different end right now. And, you know, I don't know. I think it's par for the course. In case you don't know, Jack Johnson was convicted of the Mann Act. Now, the Mann Act, I believe he was maybe Alex Papali, who's going to be coming on in about a half hour. I think he could clarify this. But I believe that Jack Johnson was the only guy convicted of the Mann Act. Or if he wasn't, there couldn't have been too many other convictions. It was set up where it was illegal to transport women across state lines for immoral purposes. You know, get a little something, you know what I mean? But the bottom line was, you know, when they tried to target Johnson, they were going after Lucille Cameron, which ended up being his wife. So, I mean, you know, if you can't bring your wife across state, it was because he was black and she was white. That's what it was all about. All right. But she refused to cooperate with them. And then they turned to a former girlfriend of Jack Johnson's who happened to have been a prostitute. Her name was Belle Schreiber. And she did eventually testify. And what they got him on was that they had proof that Jack Johnson, paid her train fare to come to another state, so the train crossed the state lines, where she, you know, had sex with him, and that was immoral in their eyes, and that's what an all-white jury convicted him based on in 1913. And subsequently, he skipped out on bail, went across and did his little tour in Europe, and stayed there until the war kind of forced him back to the States. His mom died and all this stuff. And he came back and ended up serving his sentence in 1920. So the guy did his time. You know, the pardons are usually for people that are still in jail and they get out earlier. I don't know. But you know, Senator Harry Reid said, and I quote, Jack Johnson was a legendary competitor who defined an era of American boxing and raised the bar for all American athletes. Johnson's memory was unjustly tarnished by a racially motivated criminal conviction, and it's now time to recast his legacy. It was a bill that was passed. It wasn't the first time a resolution that was passed. A similar resolution was passed in both houses of Congress back in 2009, but Obama did not approve it. He did not pass it or act on it. So now they're hoping that he will change his mind now. Speaking of change my mind, Billy C has changed my mind now. Vladimir Klitschko is going to be fighting again on May 4th. You know, I'm glad that he's fighting again, but when are we going to start to be a little critical of his choice of opposition? You know, I guess we can argue with the fact that who else is left. You know, you got this slew of top 10 heavyweights that are just hanging around, beating up on not even each other, on you know, way below their own level of competition, waiting for their chance at Vladimir Klitschko or Vitaly Klitschko. And, you know, out of left field, Vitaly Klitschko picks Francisco Piñata. Now, Piñata is a good, young, up-and-coming heavyweight. He's undefeated at 28-0 with a draw. He's 28 years old. He's a cancer survivor and everything else. But his toughest fights really was, he beat Franz Botha, who was 44 years old, and Oliver McCall. Those are the only two names on his resume that we know, except for the draw, which was against Albert Sosnowski. So when you put those three names together, how does he fit in to fight Vladimir Klitschko? Listen, I appreciate Vlad and everything he's done. He's a Hall of Famer. I'm not knocking his abilities or anything else, but when you look at he's closing in. This is 13 title defenses that he's had. He's the next closest guy to Larry Holmes, who's got 20 world heavyweight title defenses, and Joe Louis, who's got the record at 25. When you look at Larry Holmes and Joe Louis, those defenses were against much better opposition than Vlad is beginning to face. I suppose we could complain, and we could stick up for him and say, well, he's running out of opponents, but I don't know about that. I mean, you look at the top 10. I mean, we do have some young guys. We got Tyson Fury in there. He could fight him. Maybe even Tomas Adamek, give him another chance. I don't know. There are some other guys in there, although all the heavyweights kind of slip my mind right now. But Francisco Piata, he's listed in our top 25 or something. But come on, man, But anyway, hey, it was released yesterday that the MRI and X-rays confirmed what we already knew, that Gary Russell did indeed break his hand. He's apparently in the fourth or fifth round is when they anticipated that he broke it, or when they predict, or whatever the word I'm looking for. They're trying to tie it in with that round. Although he did drop his opponent in the third round, they do feel that he did not break it then. He was quoted, and he named three fighters that he's looking to fight: Juanma Lopez, Daniel Ponce de Leon, and Yuriorkis Gamboa. All three of these fights would be definitely a huge step up in level of competition. I, for one, would like to see him fight all of them. But to tell you the truth, if I'm him, the fight that I go for right away maybe would be against Juanma Lopez. He's the next progression. When you look at those three fighters, Daniel Ponce de Leon, it may be custom made for Gary Russell because he's not exactly a speedster. But Gary's not going to hurt this guy, and he's going to keep coming and coming and coming. If he's trying to get a belt, maybe he goes for him next. But I think Juanma Lopez and Gary Russell Jr. would be a great matchup, good test for both of them, because as far as I'm concerned, Juanma Lopez has got a lot of question marks. I just think that there's some unanswered questions that I have. Maybe he was a little overrated. I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. Don't forget, man. Coming up in about a half hour, we got Alex Papali and myself are going to be talking about Marlon Starling. He's a blast from the past this week. And speaking of Marlon Starling, I've talked to him and confirmed yesterday that we are going to wake his ass up this morning around 7 a.m. So stay tuned to listen to Marlon Starling. We did get several emails about him. People already thought he was in the Hall of Fame. When you look at this guy's record, he's got 6 losses, really legitimately only one, and he's admitted himself, only one should be a loss. Those other 5 are all robberies, split decisions, majority decisions. Most people in attendance, most people ringside, most people that watch the fights all think that he won. And, it's a shame that he's a recent forgotten fighter. You know how we're always talking about, that fighter, from yesteryear, he's a forgotten fighter and this and that. Well, this guy's, he's more recent, man. He's in that 80s. People talk about, who as being a great defensive fighter. Marlon Starling was one of the best defensive fighters ever. And he had some pop, and he faced all the best opponents that were available to him, and he had a strong chin. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It boggles my little pea brain. That's for sure. Hey, don't forget about our new show, man. Starting Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Billy C's Talk to Me, man. And it's going to be all about you. That's right. give you a chance to air your gripes or your pros about the sport. Talk about whatever you want. I'll comment. I'll chat with you. We're going to be opening up the phone lines, and we're also going to be taking emails. And the show is going to be driven totally by you. And it's called Billy C's Talk to Me, Man. Starts on Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark it down. I want you to be part of it. The problem is, for all you YouTubers, is, it's not going to be on YouTube. It's only going to be here live on BillyCBoxing.com. It will be available to our premium podcast subscribers, and it'll be played over the weekend on LDL TV. But I'm not sure about those times. I think it gets blanketed in with all the other shows that they rerun all weekend long. So if you're looking to watch it when you want, it's time to become a premium subscriber.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio.
He would scoff at the stretch of that man, I would
think. You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From upstate New York in the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C., the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C., damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. My fellow Americans, good evening. Welcome back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It's great to be here discussing the sweet science with everybody. I love boxing. I love talking boxing. It's what I do.
Bill.
Wait, what?
Bill.
Why are you interrupting?
Yeah,
Wait, what?
Wrong.
What's
wrong,
the problem?
Billy
What?
C.
I did not have...
We're going to have to ask you.
Wrong speech. What do you mean wrong, Billy C? What's going on here? Fine, I'll go. I just wanted to talk some boxing on TPSradio.net. That's all I wanted to do. I don't need your damn show. I'll get my own talking wrestling with the other Billy C. Yeah, that sounds good. I've always been a Hulkamaniac anyway.
Broadcasting live, brother. Welcome back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. on the mighty TPSradio.net, brother. What you gonna do, brother?
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C. show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. Glad you could join us. If you don't have Fight Now on your sports channel lineup, you need to call your local television provider and tell them that you're on Fight Now right now. That's right, man. Pick up the phone and call. I don't care if it's satellite or cable. Tell them that you want the Fight Now channel added to your sports channel lineup. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on their website, www.fightnow.com. Alex Papali is in the chat room talking out his, you-know-what, talking about Bernard Hopkins. Yeah, and he's actually justifying that we're going to most likely be watching some boring hold-fest fight that they're going to give the title to to Bernard Hopkins, and he's going to be jumping for joy over it. You know what? That's sickening. That's sickening. Joining me right now is Scotty Krause. I hope you agree with me, man. Do you want to see Bernard Hopkins with his typical, fight in spurts, try some BS move to get out of the fight? I mean, are you ready for that? I mean, if he comes and fights a Kelly Pavlik type performance, I'll give him all the accolades in the world, but I doubt it, man. What do you think?
I think those type of fights are behind him, and we've seen so many ugly fights the past couple weeks. I mean, that's kind of been the theme in the sport, just ugly fights. That this weekend could be the pinnacle of ugliness with B-Hop. I mean, no one fights uglier at times than Bernard Hopkins. I hope it is not like that. I hope he comes to actually fight and tries to school Tavoris Cloud, but I don't know. It could be nasty.
The word you just used, school. That's the way B-Hop will describe his boring performance. You see, and that's the part that makes me sick. That's the part that makes me sick. You get a guy like that who's going to hold and clinch and hit on the break and headbutt and complain. He's probably going to go down with a some kind of injury or something like that. That maybe he could stretch out another opportunity, another payday. I mean, this is all what this guy's about. It's a big shim-sham scam, and I can't stand it. I don't, I'm not knocking him for his accomplishments and everything else. I mean, come on, he's done more than most people dream. And like I said, if he performed well, if he was aggressive and was threw punches and beat up this kid, I would be the first to give him the credit. But I just can't be happy and jump for joy if it's a boring fight, and then I got to listen to people say how he schooled the kid. Come on, man, come on.
Well, that's what he did to Kelly Pavlik.
No, but he fought Kelly Pavlik.
How he treated Pavlik, and how he did Pascal. I think he fought well in those fights. Now there were too many among them. Those fights that were the bad B-Hop, the Roy Jones fight and the Dawson fights, just pure ugliness. So against Cloud, I'm not sure. I'm looking at more of the Pascal type of performance because of the style. So I'm hoping it won't be as ugly as what we've seen in other fights. That with Cloud's aggressiveness, Hopkins can outbox him without getting ugly, without my elbow, my shoulder, my rib, whatever. How he does. Oh, I'm seeing spots and all that other kind of stuff. I hope that doesn't happen, but I guess we'll see.
Listen. The Pascal impression of Bernard Hopkins was dead nuts on. When he mimicked Hopkins and when they were having that press conference, to me that was exactly how he fought. Head down, throwing wild punches. That's the Bernard Hopkins that everyone says is so aggressive and so talented and so this and so that. He's just so boring to me. Listen, like you said, if he fights the way he did and puts on a show like he did with Pavlik. And I'm okay with the fact that, he's going to rest a few rounds. I'm okay with that. I'm okay that he takes, and gives us 8 exciting rounds and takes 4 where, he's resting a little bit. If he does that, I'm okay with it. I'm fine. But like you said, man, shoulder injury, spots before my eyes, my toe hurts, he hit me below the belt, I can't continue, that kind of stuff, I'll be throwing up in the corner. Somebody asked me, "Oh, you're going to do a post-fight show?" I'm like, "Post-fight show? What are you kidding me? This isn't. I mean, I'm going to have a hard time staying awake for the fight. I'm sure. I don't know. And Keith, the Keith Thurman fight is actually, the fight that I'm looking forward to. Not because, I think it's a huge test for Keith Thurman. He's fighting a boxer, in Jan Zavik, and the bottom line is Keith Thurman, he hasn't been tested, and he's a young stud, and I think that's the fight of the night, to be honest with you.
I agree. I think that's a tremendous step up for him. I thought the Quintana victory was a solid victory, but we need to put him in there and test him further and say, well, did Quintana have anything left? Did he get a good Carlos Quintana? Or you get a Quintana that's sort of just hanging on getting some paydays. I mean, we just don't know that, and only by testing himself further and winning those fights will we know what kind of Carlos Quintana he beat. If he goes in there and struggles with Zavic, then I'd say that the Quintana that he beat probably wasn't a very good one. But if he goes in there and has the same kind of performance against a guy that is world class, then this kid is something, and I think he is something. I think he's a good, solid fighter, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him against Zavic, because Zavic's going to test him, and if he can pass his test, then I think he's worthy of getting a shot at one of the belts.
I like one time myself. The problem with him though is he seems not only one time, but he seems one dimensional. And like you said, against Zavic, he's going to have to go to Plan B. Just charging in and going for the knockout may not work against a slick fighter like Zavic. Somebody that's got some decent hand speed, can box, can move, can circle around him. It could be a long, boring, frustrating fight for Keith Thurman if he tries to do what has got him to this point. You know what I mean?
See, I don't look at Zavic as slick. I look at him more as a rugged type of guy. I mean, more a physical, rugged type of fighter. Not like a slick boxer. That'd be more like a Paulie Malignaggi kind of fighter. I mean, to me, Zavic is a tough guy. He's going to go in there and he's going to be coming forward. And I think it's going to that alone is going to be a solid test for Thurman.
Well, he can box. He can box. Zavic can box and move. And you would think that he's got to respect Thurman's power. And listen, if you're right, if he comes right straight forward and it's mano against mano, that's right into Keith Thurman's game plan. That's what he wants. And I think you're right. He's younger, he's stronger, and he's going to come out on top if that's the game plan of Zavic. I'm thinking it wouldn't be, but who the hell knows? Vladimir Klitschko just announced that he's going to be fighting Francisco Pianta May 4th. We've given, especially you have come up with some great stuff about, a good argument that Vlad especially, but you could also toss in Vitali, haven't even lost a round in 5 or 6 years. And for the most part, they've pretty much fought all the good fighters in the heavyweight division. But the last two opponents for Vlad, in my opinion, are kind of I don't know, man. I mean, definitely not in the top 10. Not my top 10. Not overall top 10. Maybe somebody's top 10 in terms of the sanctioning bodies. But is it are we going to be? Is it unfair for me to start being critical to a Vladimir Klitschko for picking a kid like Piata or Manuel Char in the previous fight with Vitali? I mean, is this what we're looking forward to? I mean, I know that they've fought a lot of the top 10 guys already, and maybe they don't want to fight them again or something. But is this what we got to look forward to?
Yeah, and I think you just nailed it. I mean, they fought most of the top 10 guys already. Some of them twice, like Tony Thompson. So it's almost like, look, we've got to find opponents somewhere. There are guys out there that maybe have bigger names here in America, but aren't any more worthy of a title shot than I never even not familiar at all with this fighter that Vlad is going to fight. His last fight, Marius Vach, was there was some familiarity with him. We knew he was a big guy. Untested, really, just like this guy is. So they're just reaching, and they're reaching globally, which you would expect from they're Eastern European. They're not American. They're not gonna find their obscure fighters from American soil necessarily. They're going to find them around the world. So here we might not be familiar with some of these fighters that maybe somewhere else might be a little more popular. It's just one of those things. They're so dominant. They've beaten all the name heavyweights, all the recognizable heavyweights, that you and I talk about, that they've got to find opponents somewhere. And I think they're going to get back, and we're going to see probably some guys in the top 10 get another crack at one of them. I think Areolas we'll probably see him in another title fight, maybe another one or two more. You got Tyson Fury, Steve Cunningham, and we'll see who comes out there. One of those guys, maybe we'll see one of them in a title shot. We'll see some new blood, but I don't see any new blood that gets me excited. Who had me excited was David Price. This guy had me kind of excited, and I thought, he needs to be tested still. But I thought he had the raw material to be a tough opponent for Klitschko maybe 2 years down the road. But we saw what just happened to him. So they've got to find an opponent somewhere. I give them credit for keeping busy and not just sitting on the crown, which they could do. And hey, every long title reign has fighters like this. Look at Larry Holmes, look at Joe Louis, look at their title reigns. There are names in there that they've just got to pull out of somewhere to stay busy.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tyson Fury has really emerged as one of the only young, hot prospects. I mean, I also like, as far as United States, I like Brian Jennings a lot. These are some names that I'd like to see fight a Klitschko at some point. But what about the date? What about May 4th? Obviously going head to head with Floyd Mayweather. I would think that. As far as I'm concerned, I would think I agree with you in terms of them focusing on, clearly on the European market. But even with that said, even if you're in Germany, even if you're a Klitschko fan, you got an opportunity to watch Floyd Mayweather against Robert Dos Guerrero or Vladimir Klitschko beat up on Francisco Piata. I mean, who do you pick?
Well, I'm going to look at it maybe the other way, make the glass half full for that, and say, who's going to be looking at it anyway? I mean, whatever date you put it on, who's going to be circling that date on their calendar and saying, "Ooh, that's the big Klitschko Pianata fight. I got to clear my schedule to make sure I catch that one." I think maybe by having it on May 4th, which boxing fans already are tuned into, we're already zeroed into May 4th. And the fact that it's not really going head-to-head because it'll take place at, 5 o'clock, U.S. time. And boxing fans will already be thinking about that day and say, hey, Vlad fights at 5. I can catch that. And then, catch the big fights later on. It might actually help in terms of the number of people that watch him fight. I think if they put it on any other date, then pretty much I'm, cleaning out my, closet on that day, or, cleaning the basement or doing something else, and I'm forgetting that he's even fighting.
Great point, because it is going to be on the U.S. On U.S. television, and you're right. That makes 100% sense. Great point. Earlier this week, it seems to be a theme based on some of the performances we saw in the ring this past weekend. With the refereeing, and it's become, boxing is weird because every so often you have these runs where terrible decisions, headbutts, cancellations because of injury, which we're in the middle of, judging, some back-to-back poor judged fights, and everybody's, the judges are awful, this and that. Well, this past weekend we got to see several very poor refereeing jobs, and it's become today's referee, as far as I'm concerned, Scott, has become about them. and I on the show yesterday I was talking about Mills Lane, and I guess if you have to blame somebody, you blame Mills, because he's the one that came up with the let's get it on, and everybody kind of has followed that. I give him a pass because I thought he was a great referee. Same thing with Michael Buffer. Let's get ready to rumble, and now you got all the ring announcers trying to do their little thing. But it's become out of hand. These referees now, let's get popping, and they're standing in the way of the referee. I mean, of the fighters, of the camera. You got Art McKinney Jr. yelling at Willie Nelson's, handful of guys celebrating a very important knockout victory on national television. You got referees breaking fighters up as soon as they get in close. I mean, virtually removing infighting from the mix, which I think is a sin. What's your thoughts, man? What's going on? Why are these referees making it about them? It should be in the order. It should be about the fight, and then fighter A and fighter B. That's it.
Well, you're absolutely right when you say it's all about them, and again, you're right when you trace it back to Mills Lane, who didn't do it to bring attention to himself. I truly believe. I think he just was into it, and it came naturally to say that, and it became a trademark. Since then, it doesn't come now. Everyone's like standing in front of the mirror, or in front of their wife. Hey, tell me how this one sounds.
Exactly.
What I say, you must obey.
Right.
Do you like that? And it's like it is becoming about them, and they all have to have their little signature things and their phrases and all this stuff. When Arthur McCanny Sr. would tell you, we shouldn't even be in the picture.
Exactly.
That's a great ref, and too bad his son is one of the worst refs out there. I can't stand Arthur McKinney Jr. I don't mean that as a person. As a referee, I can't stand. And when he was chastising them for celebrating, I'm thinking, who are you?
Right.
What are you going to follow them back to their hotel room and tell them what they're allowed to do? I mean, it's like you don't have that much power. You're just a referee. You have a job to do. And if you do your job right, we don't even know who the crap you are. So these guys want to insert themselves far too much into the action, and I think that's a problem. The other problem is you take a guy like Russell Mora. I don't think there's a referee or even someone in the sport of boxing that I like as much as this guy. You know that. We met him at the Hall of Fame. One of the nicest human beings I think I've ever spoken to. I love this guy, and I root for him every time he's there. It's like a fighter. One of your favorite fighters just keeps losing. You just keep rooting for them and hoping they'll win. Every time he refs, I'm just hoping he'll have a good performance, and people will like him again because he's done such a poor job lately. I don't think he's trying to insert himself in that. I don't think he's doing that. I think in his case, and in some other cases we've seen recently, there's just a lack of consistency. There's just no basis, for which they are to break up a clinch or not break up a clinch or take a point or not take a point. You would think there's some kind of rep school, okay? My daughter's in driver's ed right now, so that when she gets on the road, she understands, like every other driver does, what a stop sign is, what a yield sign is, all right? So that there's consistency and conformity. So you don't have people banging into each other everywhere. It's like, isn't there some kind of ref school that says, here's how you take a point away? First, you look at the fighter. You give him, there's got to be some kind of consistency.
Yeah, but wait,
you can't
Scott.
just let these guys loose and just say, hey, do your thing. And it almost seems like that's what's happening. It's almost like in baseball with balls and strikes, where you just have each home plate umpire has his own system, and you have to adapt to their rules, to how they do it, when there needs to be a standard that everyone holds to. And that's the problem that we just don't see by the referees.
I agree with you, but here's the problem. It's like what we're seeing with trainers. You know, we're not seeing good trainers anymore. We're seeing rah-rah men because all the great trainers, all those teachers are gone. And now you look at this crop of referees that would become the teachers. And let me just throw one name. You know, I can't even say it without laughing. You know, let me throw one name at you. Newly retired Joe Cortez. Could you see him teaching refs? Okay, this is what you got to do. You got to ask your wife, stand in front of the mirror, come up with a phrase. You can't use mine because mine was unfair, but I'm firm. And then as soon as they clinch together, you got to break them apart. You know, so the guys that are actually have had their careers and are at the end of their career are the guys that are actually teaching the young guys. You know, when you see a guy like, you know, let's get poppin', man. You know, first of all, that's like a gang-related thing, you know, and you know, boxing is bad enough. You know, moms don't want to see their little boys fighting and everything else, you know. And you know, when you got a guy that's acting all gangster, you know, let's get popping, man. You know, I mean, come on, man. And, you know, it's actually appalling. And there are some good referees out there, you know. I keep mentioning my buddy Ron Lipton. You know, he was a great referee, refereed a lot of championship fights and everything else. He's a guy that never is in the picture. You know, he's you know, knows how to you know, ref, knows the sport. You know, he's a historian. You know, he's in shape. You know, these guys, half of these guys. I mean, come on, Eddie Cotton. Eddie Cotton is actually a decent referee, but, you know, he's out of shape. That poor guy is going to have a heart attack. And I've never seen anybody sweat as much as him. I mean, it looks like somebody's dumping buckets of water on him, you know. And you got him. You got these guys that are overweight. They can't even get through the ropes. You know, in the fights over the weekend, how many times was the corner still in the ring when the fight? I heard referees say time, and then never say time in. You know, I mean, so, you know, there could be a problem with the timekeeper. If they're supposed to follow the referee, you know, when do they start the clock again? I mean, just little fundamental things are not being done.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I go back to point away and when not to, and how to do it. Now, if you look at the big picture, it's a pretty serious thing. When in the sport of boxing, you know this, a loss tends to hurt a fighter more than it should, but it does. And sometimes a loss can come down to a point taken away. Well, you know, what if you're the fighter that gets the point taken away and you're not given a proper warning? You're not told, look, hey, you need to stop doing this, or there's other reasons involved that the ref doesn't take into account. And you know, a career can be changed. I mean, it's just, I mean, I don't want to make it too dramatic, but it's something that needs, obviously, to be improved. And you're right, I don't know who's teaching them. If the Joe Cortezes of the world are doing the training, then, man, we're in trouble, because this guy, he's asked, hey, did you have the referee just handle that okay? And I never get an answer from him that makes any sense and that is definitive. You know, it's not like the NFL guy when he says, yes, that should have been an interception, blah blah blah. He's very specific and, you know, very very to the point. You know, Joe Cortez kind of wanders all over. You know, well, he's a good referee. I think maybe he probably, you know, gave it his best shot. I think he considered everything and he made his decision. You didn't tell me anything then, Joe. You didn't say whether it was right or wrong, or what he should have done right or what he should have done wrong. You're not going to criticize your fellow referee as to why are you ringside.
Listen,
why are you there? And, you know, to me, spend the money on someone, you know, with a monitor in front of them and do instant replay. Well, don't have Joe Cortez there.
Joe Cortez, I've said this. First of all, the guy doesn't even speak English well. He's got broken English and everything else. That's number one. Number two, he sounds punch drunk. He sounds like somebody's beating him in the head with a baseball bat for the last 20 years. So he's got that going for him. And number three, he talks with a mouth full of marbles. So, I mean, when you add all of those together, I don't understand a word he's saying, number one. But here, let's make it better. He was a referee, a terrible one at that. But let's give him a scorecard. Let's see how he scores a fight. And look at his scorecard. I've been critical of Teddy Atlas. You know what? Teddy knows how to score a fight 10 times better than Joe Cortez. Joe Cortez is the only scorecard that's totally out of whack. And like you said, he makes no... He has no definitive answers for anything. You know, listen, he must be paying them because, I can't see them throwing their money away with this guy. I mean, if that's the answer to Harold Letterman, boy, Harold Letterman at least is 99.9% dead accurate every time he scores something. Joe Cortez brings nothing. It's terrible, really, man. Hey, real quick. We're out of time, but King Kong Agbeko is back in the ring this week. This weekend, he's fighting Luis Melendez for an IBO title, world title, I guess. I can't wait. And I know you like this guy too. I mean, what a warrior. Are we going to see the old King Kong in there, or are we going to see? The product of, that Abner Maris fight and did he fade? I mean, is his best days behind him?
I don't know. That'd be a shame because this guy was one of my favorites at one point. I mean, he really, really would bring it. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I don't know. He's a guy that could have left it in the ring a couple of years ago, given it his best. He's fought top fighters, and I guess when you do that consistently, sometimes it shortens your career. And not to mention, this guy, remember, several years ago, he didn't fight for a while because he battled malaria and other things. I mean, it's bad enough when you're getting hit in the head for a living, but when you're also, in between fights battling malaria, it might shorten your career a little bit. So,
and didn't
I'm not sure what he has left.
Didn't something else happen? Wasn't it him that was getting on in the car to go on the plane, and he had some
out.
Yeah, some kind of his back locked up, and he fell and hit his head on the curb or something. It was some kind of freaky thing like that. I don't mean to laugh because I love him too, but yeah, this poor guy. I mean, I love that guy. I mean, when he fought Gonzalez, that's what hooked me to Agbeko, one of the greatest fights I think I've ever seen. And it was on what's now NBC Sports, but it was on that Versus network. William Gonzalez, I think, against Agbeko. Great fight. But predictions, who's going to win real quick, Cloud or Hop?
Oh, boy. Quickly, I'm going to go with Cloud. I've been kind of lucky with Hopkins. I've kind of had a sense of his fights. All along, I've kind of predicted his wins over Pavlik and Tarver and Pascal, and predicted his losses to Calzaghe and Dawson. I've kind of had a sense of his career. I have no sense of this fight. I really don't know how this fight's going to go. It really could go a number of ways, but I'm thinking at some point, it's just not going to work out for you. And he's not going to be fighting at 60. Something's going to happen somewhere along the way that's going to end it, and it might as well be a young, strong guy like Cloud. So I'm thinking Cloud's going to do it this weekend.
The only problem is he's got to do it decisively. Otherwise, Bernard Hopkins is going to say he got robbed, and he's going to want to come back. I mean, Bernard Hopkins is looking to get his ass kicked bad before he walks away, and unfortunately for his own good, he's going to need that. But anyway, Scott, great points today, especially on the Klitschko thing, and I'll be looking forward to next week. We'll be doing our greatest fight series. I'll email you about that, and we'll enjoy the fights this weekend, man.
All right, sounds good. Take care, Bill.
All right, take care. That's Scotty Krause.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com and place your order today.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out their ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't...
It's Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh?
What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
As Billy C sits here in the multi-million-dollar Talkin' Boxing Studios, sipping a fine wine before you're even out of bed, you should be thinking, damn, I wish I had a mustache like his. It's the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C show. He's Billy C, and you're not. Sucks to be you.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
And we're back. You are listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. Glad you could join us. For all the information about the channel, you can find it on their website, www.fightnow.com. Just before I went to break, I, hit the button too fast. That was Scotty Krause that just joined us, gave us some great thoughts. And right now it's time for the Blast from the Past, which is being sponsored by the International Boxing Organization, where their computerized ranking system is second to none. Check them out, www.iboboxing.com, and see what I mean. And joining us, who has pretty much taken over this Blast from the Past, and today we're going to be talking about a guy that is a pretty good friend to both myself and my man right now, Alex Papali. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Billy C. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I was so glad that you reminded me that we didn't do a Blast from the Past on Marlon Starling, because this is, I said it earlier in the show, this is one of these more recent forgotten fighters, and you and I have scratched our heads. I mean, we've talked a lot about Marlon, and we just don't understand why. I mean, this guy did it all, and was, such in the forefront during his era. And it's like they're taking advantage of him. The fans, the powers that be with the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I mean, tell us about Marlon Starling and why we feel this way.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm hopeful that eventually he will get in there. But, I do. I think hopefully a lot of listeners, when they hear some of the stuff we're going to break down here, will feel the same way we do. Marlon Starling. His nickname was the Magic Man, or just plain Magic Man, also known as Moochie. He was born August 29th, 1959. He's about 5 foot 8 inches tall, and he fought mostly at welterweight, but he did make a shot at the middleweight title. He started boxing at 11 years old at the Bellevue Square Boys Club in Hartford, Connecticut. And at 14, he was successful in the Silver Mittens, which I guess when you're too young for the Golden Gloves, you fight in the Silver Mittens.
Wait a minute. The Silver Mittens, isn't that what you bought your little kitties? I couldn't resist. Go ahead.
So my kitties don't wear clothes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He went. He was very successful as an amateur. He actually went 97-13. He fought. I didn't realize this until I was looking into this last night in some of the things about him. He actually fought Mike McCallum as an amateur.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that.
Was one of his only losses, right? Was against McCallum?
Yeah, one of his losses in 1977 in the amateur tournament was to McCallum. And then he lost to Marvin Hagler's half-brother, Robbie Sims, as well. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to see here is that you could draw a direct line from Marlon Starling to some of the very best in the 80s. And just by that alone, I think that speaks volumes right there about him. But in 1977, he was the third best welterweight in the nation, and he turned pro 2 years later in 1979, July. And actually, in his sixth pro fight, tragedy struck, and he fought a man named Charlie Newell, and it was the fourth time that they had fought. They fought twice as an amateur and once as a pro, and Marlon had beaten him each time, and in the seventh round, it was kind of a boring fight, and then Marlon connected with an uppercut in the seventh, and Charlie Newell never woke up, and he actually died a few days later. And Marlon, it was very rough on Marlon, and at the time he was working at a gas station as a manager, and, there was a lot of press. It was big news in this state here, and he actually went south for 10 days to stay with some family to try to, clear his head. And when he came back, the thing that motivated him, he knew this guy, they were friends. And one of the things that he asked himself, what would Charlie want me to do? And Charlie would want me to start training again, to keep going. And that's what he did. And soon, there was actually a group called the Starling Investor Group, and this I thought was pretty interesting. 30 people, 30 different investors in the state of Connecticut here put up $2,000 apiece, and that bought them into the Marlon Starling business, and allowed him to get like a weekly paycheck and be able to train full time, so he wouldn't have to, because it was really, he's trying to be a pro fighter and waking up at 4:30 in the morning in order to make it into the gas station to open the gas station at 5:30. And I don't know, you might be able to relate to those crazy early morning hours.
Yeah, but I couldn't relate to. I don't run. I don't run 6 miles and then work at the gym like he did.
Right. That was the thing, is that he would have all those hours in the gym and training, and then have to do that too. It just was too much. So the investor group, it really sounded like a really good idea. They made it so that he could get a weekly paycheck and then he could train.
Well, Marlon Starling, what seems to be a theme every time we do a blast from the past. He fought everybody and anybody in the 80s, all the big names, including Donald Curry. And, he fought him twice. And the first fight was a controversial fight, as we learned that when you look at the 6 losses in Marlon Starling's career, he has admitted really losing one. He feels he was robbed on the other 5, and I agree with him. Every single fight that he lost, with the exception of the second Donald Curry fight, was a majority decision or a split decision. Even the craziest loss, which was against Tomas Malares, which took place in 1988, where he was hit clearly after the bell and was ultimately knocked out, the only time in his career. And the weird thing about that was he had the title. He was the WBA World Welterweight Champion, and he gets knocked out after the bell. They review it. The commission finds that he was 100% wronged and reversed the decision to a no contest. But the WBA lets Malares keep the belt, which was, to this day, I don't understand it. We've been talking about corruption in boxing, and how can they let that happen? Just another one of these bad luck scenarios for Marlon Starling.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to put it. Is that I think that's one of the things that we probably don't talk about enough in the blast. Is that a lot of times the thing that separates you from being one of the very best and being the greatest is sometimes tricks of timing, or a trick of being in the right place at the right time, that kind of thing. And Marlon Starling has faced that a few times. And one of them was actually in the training. He had his jaw broken. He's talked about this at the Hall of Fame. He had his jaw broken in training for he helped Tommy Hearns train for the fight with Sugar Ray Leonard. And he thought that going into the training camp, he thought, Leonard's going to be able to beat Tommy. And Tommy Hearns and him sparred, and a big right hand broke Marlon's jaw. But Marlon was from the reports in the Hartford Courant, it looks like Marlon was doing pretty well in sparring when his jaw was broken, and of course, then he had it wired shut for 6 weeks. But you're right. I mean, if you ask him, the one loss that he knows that he felt he deserved the loss, that first loss to Donald Curry. But all the rest of his losses, they might as well have asterisks on them.
You mean the second? You mean the second Donald Curry fight? The first one was a very close split decision in that one. The second one was a one-sided fight. I'm pretty sure that's.
Yeah, but I think he's described it as. I could be wrong. You might be right about that, but I thought he described it as that was the fight that he felt was the one that he did lose. And that, but you're right. One of them one of them was a split, and one of them was a regular decision. But yeah, for some reason I do in that video from the Billy C. Hall of Fame ceremony. From what it sounds like, he's describing the first one.
Oh, maybe I got him mixed up. Look at the guys that he fought. His last two fights of his career in 1990 were against Maurice Blocker, which was a fantastic fight, and I think he got robbed. Michael Nunn, another fight that he got robbed in. Lord Hunnigan, who was a fighter that destroyed Donald Curry and ended his career pretty much. Marlon Starling beat him for a title fight. Mark Breland beats him twice. Well, the one fight was a draw, but 99% of the people that were ringside said he beat him again. Simon Brown, he's got wins. Floyd Mayweather Sr., it's just the list is Lupe Aquino. The list is just unbelievable. And the other thing that people forget is that Eddie Futch was his trainer early on, and ultimately he was one of Freddie Roach's early projects as well. So, you could see why this guy was so solid as a fighter. He had decent hand speed. He was very defensive-oriented. You couldn't hit the guy. That's why he was never stopped, except you could hit him after the bell when he wasn't ready for it. And the guy was slick, man, and he had some pop, He had 27 knockouts of his 45 wins. I just think it's a sin that the International Boxing Hall of Fame, which is regarded by most as the top boxing Hall of Fame, don't have him in there. I just don't get it, Alex.
Well, I think one of the problems is Hunnigan is not in there and Curry is not in there either. So I think that once there's movement on maybe one of those guys, then we'll see what will happen. But personally,
but what is that?
I think you could make the argument that Starling should be in there above both of them.
Exactly.
The win he got, and I remember watching that as a kid. Me and my brother watching that when he beat Hunnigan. We were thrilled. That was just his most dominant victory, even though somebody asked a question. I think maybe it was Derek Bonnet had asked this question on Facebook the other day of which knockout of Marlon Starling's is the most impressive. And the way I thought, the Mark Breland one is probably the most highlight reel worthy because one, he was behind in that fight, and I'm pretty sure he was fighting that fight with a broken nose that Breland broke with a jab, and it was a come-from-behind knockout. And whenever you see a real tall, lanky guy like that get knocked out, it's pretty dramatic, and that was quite a knockout. But the Hunnigan one was so complete. He really had Hunnigan's number, and he took him apart. But, there was another win over Kevin Howard. And remember, Kevin Howard, again, there's that connection that you could put through.
We just lost you, Alex. Alex, we just lost you, so you got to call me back. Sorry about that. And I think what Alex was starting to say was you put that connection with Sugar Ray Leonard, and Kevin Howard was remembered for the upset over Sugar Ray Leonard. And you got to give him that. I'm sorry about that, man. We got you back.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just saying that Kevin Howard, he had an extremely dominant win over Kevin Howard. And remember, Kevin Howard is the guy who, when Leonard came out, one of the times he came out of retirement, fought a fight, and then went right back into retirement, Kevin Howard was the guy that dropped him, and Leonard didn't look so hot against him.
Exactly.
Marlon Starling boxed the hell out of Kevin Howard, and I think only one judge gave Kevin Howard one round. The other two gave Marlon every round. So again, and they're fighting right around fighting the same guy at the same time. And I think that's one of the things that you could maybe say was maybe a problem for Marlon, is that he worried about or concerned himself with fighting Sugar Ray Leonard. It really did preoccupy him, and you can't help it. I mean, he wanted to fight the best out there. But it preoccupied him so much that during the first Curry fight, Leonard was ringside, and in some of the fight reports I read, Marlon had a move called the Starling Stomp, where he'd raise his lead foot and stomp it, and he would do that every now and then, sort of clown around in the ring, and he did that, and then he would also, when he in the clinches, he'd like peek out of the ring and make faces to Sugar Ray Leonard. And, some of the reports were saying he should have been spending more time punching Curry and less time winking at Ray.
Well, the funny thing about it is, although most people never discredit Sugar Ray Leonard for, avoiding anyone, it seems clear to me that he did avoid Marlon Starling.
I think so. I remember mentioning this, that I think that you could argue that he was the Charlie Burley to that modern Sugar.
Yeah.
Because he had that style that was a crafty, clever, knuckleball sort of defensive style that Ray knew that guy's going to be tough to fight.
Hey, man, I'm impressed with the baseball analogy there. That's good stuff, knuckleball. You're shocking me, bro.
I think Larry Merchant used to use that a lot.
Oh, no! Come on, take the credit, damn it! Don't deflect it. But Marlon Starling is a guy that we both have had the luxury of meeting. As a matter of fact, that when I was still promoting, that's when I first met Marlon years ago, and he was contemplating a comeback. And, the guy has just been in phenomenal shape even to this day. And we had a ball with him when he came up for our Hall of Fame event. And I was proud to have him be one of the inductees, one of the first inductees. And the one thing that I did notice, and you noticed it too, was that the fans seem to remember Marlon more than some of the powers that be do.
Oh, yeah, definitely. One, he fought on TV a lot. He fought on free TV on Saturday afternoons. The Curry fights were on a Saturday afternoon. The Breland fight was on a Saturday afternoon. That just doesn't happen anymore, and that was a big deal to be on Wide World of Sports, and Marlon was. And he was on, I think CBS had a show too, because I remember Gil Clancy and Tim Ryan, doing some of his fights. One thing I should also mention is that he also was connected to another, boxing has so many colorful characters. He was connected to a very intriguing character, and when you get him on here, maybe he'll talk about him. A guy named F. Mac Buckley, who was one of Marlon's, I think he was the trainer that turned him pro. He was trainer and manager. This guy was a fascinating lawyer who actually ran for some local politics, I think for the state senate. I don't think he did so hot in that race. But he was very involved in a lot of youth programs. And I didn't get a chance to read too much about it, but I think eventually he was involved in some strange scandals and disappeared. But F. Mac Buckley is his name, and he was quite a well-known lawyer that became, popular. They were the Magic Duo. They called themselves the Magic Show.
Huh. That's something. I will. I never heard that, and I will. If he comes on in a few minutes, I will. But Marlon Starling, in my opinion, one of the best fighters of recent times, anyway. And I don't think he gets his just due from some of the powers that be. He's a great guy. We enjoyed hanging with him and love talking with him. And he's a great speaker once he gets up on the podium. He's a snazzy dresser, right? I mean,
yes, he is. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is that we, every week we talk about guys that are in various states. This sport takes a lot out of you, and I think Marlon's current condition. I mean, he's in great shape, and like you said, he's a lot of fun, and he interacts with the fans. And I think you got to think that part of it has to do with the fact that it was important to him to maintain the science of the sport, and that's hit and not get hit. And he's somebody who did not take a beating in his career, and you can tell.
Well, the thing is that, everybody talks about Floyd Jr., about being such a great defensive fighter, and quite honestly, I don't think he's got anything on Marlon Starling. I really don't, and it's a shame that, Marlon doesn't get the recognition that I believe he deserves, And one thing I just want to add about the Boxing Hall of Fame, and I'm not, I'll knock them in a different platform, but I'm not trying to say this as a knock, but Marlon doesn't get paid to go there or anything else, and the main reason why he goes, and the main reason why fans go to see him, is because he enjoys hanging out with boxing fans. He truly enjoys it. This isn't a hassle for him and everything else. And for all the people that do go up to the International Boxing Hall of Fame, just keep one thing in mind. This is all Marlon, taking off from work, which, it hurts him financially to do that, and being away from his family for those few days. And he does it as a return to the fans. And that's something I hope people understand, because a lot of people might have the misconception that they're paying him big bucks and, he's part of this and part of that. And although he's, very much involved with the Hall of Fame in terms of, being there year after year, this is a guy that's doing it for the fans. And I hope people understand that, because, he enjoys having fans remember him and stuff, and they definitely do. So I just wanted to make sure I got that out, Alex. And I know we're running out of time, and I want to get you your opinion on some stuff for the weekend. But Marlon Starling, great job as usual, Alex. Former middleweight world champion, former world welterweight champion, former world middleweight title challenger. He is a member of the Billy C. Boxing Hall of Fame and should be a member of the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He's got 45 wins, 27 coming by knockout, 6 losses, never been stopped. He does have 1 draw. 73-inch reach when he fought, and he's around my height, 5'8". 384 rounds as a pro, 51% knockout ratio. Marlon Starling, definitely a blast from the past. Great job as usual, Alex, and I know he likes you, and every time I mention you, he's like, "Oh, I love that guy. I love that guy." But
yeah, we had a good time that weekend.
But anyway, he says you can't drive worth a damn. No. But all right, I'm going to give you the platform. Who's going to win? Bernard Hopkins against young gun Tavorius Cloud. In my opinion, I think that regardless whether B-Hop wins or loses, if he doesn't get beat up really bad, we're going to see him again. We're going to see him complain. We're going to see the normal stuff we see from him. Is he going to get beat up this weekend?
I think the biggest question mark is how much is the layoff going to affect Tavorius Cloud? He's a young, hungry guy. He has the style that could give the old man Hopkins some difficulty, but he's been so inactive. It's going to be over a year when that bell rings since the last time Cloud was in the ring. That doesn't bode well for him.
Does he have the power?
The other thing is that, how, Hopkins is like, he's almost like a cobra, He seduces you. And these young guys, if he seduces him like he did with Pascal to fight at a slow pace, I think what Joe Santoliquito has said in the past is right. Bernard only has about 8 good rounds in him at this age. And quite honestly, I watched a clip of him sparring yesterday. He looks slow as molasses. If Cloud could pressure him and be aggressive, I think Cloud could do what people have been trying to do for years now, and that's retire Bernard. But you're crazy to vote to pick against him. I mean, come on. He's like old man Winter.
Well, listen,
he's just not going away.
A great analogy again, especially this year. But does Cloud have the power? Does he possess the punching power to make Bernard Hopkins respect him? And like I was saying earlier in the chat room, I think Bernard is going to try to find a way to weasel another fight out of the deal, roll around on the canvas from a low blow or a shoulder injury or something like that. What does Cloud have to do to prevent shenanigans like that? And does he have the power to make B-Hop stay away from him?
It's going to be interesting because Bernard, for his whole career, it's like you could hit him with a crowbar and there's no reaction. We finally saw that he did seem to react to Pascal's power. I don't know if Cloud hits as hard as Pascal, but I think Cloud could could get respect and get some control in there just with the pressure and the pace he sets. If he throws a lot of punches at Bernard and forces Bernard to have to deal with that, I think that's going to be the smart move, because that's kind of what Dawson did. And even Dawson didn't do it enough. I mean, if you look at the amount of punches that Dawson averaged with Hopkins, it was a lot slower than he usually fights. That's what I mean by Hopkins seduces them. He gets you to slow down because he knows where he can just pot shot you with one shot that makes you think, okay, now I'm going to hesitate, and get you into this position where, and it's going to work. It could very well work with Cloud because he's been off for so long, where he's going to be thinking, I'm in here with a Hall of Famer. And, if that gets into his head, could be problems.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to.
I was only playing with you in the chat room before, but I tell you, if he does win, it is a pretty amazing thing for old men, and it does again raise questions with the PED issue, because one of the things that PEDs is this sort of fountain of youth. Look at what we talked about last week about Marvin Hagler. He was old at 33. These guys it's ridiculous. All these guys are 33 and beyond. Martinez, Hopkins, Mayweather. Is there a fountain of youth that these guys are using? You got to wonder.
Listen, as much as I don't like B-Hop, I don't think he's on any PEDs. He's too clean. If he was, that would destroy him, and I don't want to believe that. As much as I don't like the guy, I don't want to believe that, Alex. And you make an interesting point.
I hear you. I don't want to either, but the facts are that he's so old and he's
come on. I read just the other day that 70 is the new 30. Did you see that? They're basing it on caveman times and everything. But anyway, Alex, great job with that, and I'm looking forward to the Hopkins fight. But hopefully we'll get Marlon on in a little bit. So Alex, great job. Enjoy the fights this weekend, my man.
Billy C, take care.
All right, that's Alex Papali doing a great job as usual. We're going to take a short break, and we are scheduled to get Marlon Starlin on next.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Every week, 2 hours of the best boxing talk on the radio.
I have a bunch of questions, Donnell, right? If you feel like you want to, you can answer for JD first. Why will you win? JD Chapman, why will you win?
Baby Holmes will get sick and get hit by a train that day on the way to the fight, or he might have diarrhea, he might have the flu, he might throw up. One of his eyeballs might fall out that day, and I might get lucky.
Talking Boxing with Billy C.
In the real world, life has its shares of trials and tribulations, but you don't have to face them alone. This is Patricia Campanaro of Campanaro and Tomkovich. If you are facing emotionally difficult family legal issues from divorce to child custody, reach out to the team that will dedicate themselves to fighting for you, the team of Campanaro and Tomkovich. With almost 30 years of experience handling divorce, child custody, legal guardianship, visitation, and other legal issues dealing with family concerns, we can help you resolve the problems you are facing with professionalism and care. Our supportive staff is always ready to assist you with any questions or concerns you may have. To find out more about about Campanaro and Tomkovich, visit us at duchessnylaw.com or call us and speak to a member of our attentive staff at 845-221-4099. That's 845-221-4099. Don't be surprised at court with inexperienced representation. At Campanaro and Tomkovich, we have been helping our clients get the justice they deserve for almost 30 years, and we could do the same for you.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Talking Boxing with Billy C.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the number one show in the country, Talking Boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
St. Jimmy's coming down across the alleyway, up on the boulevard like a zip gun on parade. Lights on the silhouette, he's disappointed net, coming at you on the count of one.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C. show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. Glad you could join us. If you don't have Fight Now on your sports channel, I know, you need to call your local television provider and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. It's that simple, man. Pick up the phone and call. All the information about Fight Now can be found at their website, www.fightnow.com. And speaking of now, I don't think we have Marlon on the line. We have, represent? Yep, we have some kind of bogus machine. So unfortunately, we're not going to get Marlon, and I don't have his other number here on the on our system. Let me just take a quick look and see if I do. But I doubt it. So unfortunately, Marlon, he said he was going to be listening to the show. So Marlon, if you are listening, give us a shout. Something's not working right with your phone. You can give us a call on the studio line, 845-228-8710. 845-228-8710 if you're listening, Marlon. If not, hey, maybe next time we will move on. At this point, I'd hope to get Marlon on, but his phone is not working. We're getting some kind of funky message. So anyway, the big fight this weekend with Bernard Hopkins, we'll be talking about that a little later. What is happening, they made it official, although we had already talked about this previously. Arthur Abraham and Robert Stiglitz are going to be getting it on again, as Mills Lane would say. And this is taking place this is taking place in Germany, I believe, and it's going to be happening on March 23rd, and we'll be looking forward to that. And as we can hear a phone ringing, that's probably somebody calling the wrong line. But nonetheless, we will have to remedy that situation here. But the bottom line is this. Robert Stiglitz against Arthur Abraham for the WBO Super Middleweight Championship. It is a rematch. And what's going to be taking place is Robert Herlines is going to be on that card as well. It's going to be shown here in the U.S., which I think is really cool. It's going to be on Epic station, Epic channel, so we'll be looking forward to that one when that happens. There's also going to be a double WBF, World Boxing Federation, who I've told you guys was making a big splash in the boxing industry. And on this weekend, there's going to be a triple header taking place, and I will talk about that in a second here, because I think we're going to have to take a unscheduled break. We'll be right back.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com, and place your order today.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out there. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
Hit Joe Lewis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh?
What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
As Billy C. sits here in the multi-million-dollar Talkin' Boxing Studios, sipping a fine wine before you're even out of bed, you should be thinking, damn, I wish I had a mustache like his. It's the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. show. He's Billy C., and you're not. Sucks to be you.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C. first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed people's champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C. show. You're watching us on the Fight Now television channel. And if you don't have Fight Now on your sports channel lineup, call your local television provider and tell them that you want Fight Now right now. All the information can be found on our website, www.fightnow.com. Speaking of now, we finally got him, I'm pretty sure. Marlon Starling, are you on the line?
How you doing, Billy C? You're always messing with me.
I'm not messing with you. I'm sitting here hearing the phone in the background. I'm going, Marlon's calling the wrong number there, and I had tried calling you, and we didn't get you. But, hey, all is great right now. We took an impromptu break, but, man, we're glad to have you on. Ladies and gentlemen, Marlon Starling, former world welterweight champion, and should be in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Marlon, we were just talking about your career, and I got to ask you a question right now, right off the bat. Describe the Starling Stomp. What the hell was the Starling Stomp?
Oh, boy. It was something, they blew it all out of proportion. It was something that I got into the rhythm and the match, and it was a step where I feigned a guy and jumped back, and it was there. It always worked.
You were in a lot of great fights, Marlon, and we were just dissecting your career, and it's funny because, and I'll be honest with you, the fans remember you. You get the accolades from them, and they always come up to you. I know you're always the center of attention whenever boxing fans are around, and they remember all these great fights that you were in. You fought everybody and everybody in the 80s. You were a world champion. You do have six. You have six. Yeah, I know. You have 6 losses on your career. You've admitted that, truthfully, you should have only lost 1 in your career. We all agree. A lot of fights you were robbed. What's the problem, man? Why do you think that the powers that be aren't recognizing your accomplishments as much as people like myself and all other boxing fans do?
Because you have to be with the team to be on the team. And I was never on a team. I was never on with a Bob Arum or a Don King. For me to get a world championship, I had to give something up. And, you got to give something to get something in this world today. And with Bob Arum, I had to give him so many fights if I wanted to fight his fighter. Same thing with Don King. If I wanted to fight for a world championship, I had to give so much up. But it got to a point where I said, well, you know what? I'm young. I can give a couple of fights to these guys as long as I get what I want, and that's the world championship.
Well, you definitely got that, and I think the reason why fans remember Marlon Starling is because you were right in front of them. You were on network television a lot. They got to watch you, something that we don't get as often today with the public on the regular public-based channels, no special channel or anything. I think that helped you a lot. My question that's always haunted me is, your last two fights, arguably you were robbed. The only thing that was missing was the mask and the gun. Is that what made you walk away from it? I mean, especially the Maurice Blocker fight? I mean, is that why you just kind of hung up the gloves, or were you ready to walk away?
Well, I started boxing. I started professional in 1979 at 147. My last fight was in 1990. It was at 147.
Right.
I got tired of the weight. I got tired of fighting the weight instead of fighting the opponent. I got tired of the Bob Arams and the Don Kings and the Cedric Christians. I got to the point where I said, this is it. I believe me, boxing. I eat and sleep boxing. It got to a point where I said, let's leave it to the young guy. What happened was my last fight, I fought Maurice Blocker in Tahoe. I went out. I fought none right before that at 160, and then I had to go all the way back down to try to make welterweight. I passed out getting ready for the Maurice Blocker fight. I ended up fighting that fight, and I believe I won. It was a close decision, but I won, and they gave him the decision. And my guy said, "Marlon, we got to fight this decision." I looked at him. I said, "Leave it alone. It's time."
Remind me what took place. You had the WBC welterweight title. You blew away Lloyd Hunnigan, which was going into that fight. He was pretty much regarded as a fighter that was unbeatable. He had just beaten your nemesis in Donald Curry, you followed that knockout win, which was a classic knockout, with a 12-round decision of Young Kil Chung, and you were still the world welterweight champion. And then all of a sudden you don't have the belt anymore, and you ended up fighting Mo Blocker, Maurice. I keep calling him Mo, but Maurice Blocker. Why did they take the title from you?
Once again, I would say, I was a rebel. I don't want to give nothing up. I wanted what they. I was a little bit before my time. I wanted what they have today. I wanted that. I wanted to be control of Marlon Stone, and they didn't want that to happen. And it was time where the next young guy. I knew Maurice Blocker wasn't going to be there long. It was time. It was just time for me to walk away from it.
You had the privilege of working with, or I should rephrase that. They had the privilege of working with you. Eddie Futch was a trainer that you had, and ultimately a young Freddie Roach. Eddie Futch? What did he bring to the table for you as a trainer?
I think Eddie Futch brought a little knowledge. Eddie Futch or Freddie Roach, they didn't teach Marlon Starling anything. They helped make the Marlon Starling better. Freddie Roach was a guy doing most of the work when Eddie was there. Freddie was the coach here, and I had a guy named Pepe Vasquez. It was Freddie, Eddie, and Pepe. I think the lead guy really was Pepe Vasquez, and then I say it was Freddie Roach, and then Eddie Futch. Eddie Futch, rest his soul, he was there for the money.
The 80s, and I say this all the time, Marlon, and I think I said it to you last time we were together. If somebody asked me back then in the mid to late 80s if I thought that I was witnessing the last great era of boxing, I would have said no. I would have laughed at them, and I just thought that was the way it was. Now you look back and you say to yourself, man, guys like Marlon Starling and the level of opposition that you faced, fight after fight after fight, And then you fast forward, and we're in the year 2013 right now, and we watch these high-profile fighters fighting, and these cakewalk opponents that they get. I mean, what's your thoughts, man? What's happened to the sport?
Well, I think today that you couldn't get the fighters that's out there today to fight on HBO back in the 80s. They wasn't marketable. They couldn't fight. I mean, one thing I can say about a Marlon Starlin fight, he was going to be there. I always ask people, what's the worst thing can happen in boxing? And they say, oh, you get knocked out. I say the worst thing that can happen in the sport of boxing is you get into a fight. And you have to be in condition, just in case you got to run. You have to be in condition to withstand. I fought maybe in 1980, I fought half of my fights, I fought 12-round decisions.
Well, you were known as a great defensive fighter, and nobody could really hit you cleanly unless they waited for the bell to ring. But, that's something that today, I think we have either or. I think we have fighters that all they do is run, or we have fighters that brawl. There's no one that really can do a little bit of everything anymore, and I think it's making some younger fans delusional. I don't think they realize what the sport is and what it really should be. What's your thoughts?
I think the sport is not. I think the sport is not professionalism like it was then. We have fighters that can fight, and we have boxers that can box. I always say, if you're gonna fight me, I'm gonna box you. And if you're gonna box me, I'm gonna fight you. The object of the game is hit and don't get hit. Everybody talk about Marlon Starlin. Oh, he's a so good defensive fighter. They say I'm a good defensive fighter. Half of my fights I won by knockout.
More than half.
They didn't get knocked out defensively. Something had to hit them.
Right. So they got hit by something. You had more than half. 27 knockouts at 45 fights is pretty good. Alex and I just did a blast on you, and he wanted me to ask you a question. He says, who was F. Mac Buckley? He wants you to explain to us who F. Mac Buckley was.
Oh, F. Mac Buckley. You don't have enough time in your program. But F. Mac Buckley was attorney, was a very successful attorney from Marlborough, Connecticut. And he came up to me after my amateur career and said, let's turn pro. I had no idea. I didn't want to turn pro. Then I said, before I get out of the sport, let me see what I can win a world championship. And I got into it, and I thought I was Muhammad Ali, like everybody, all children do. And then as I fought, every time I fought somebody, I said to myself, well, if I can't beat this guy, how could I beat Ray Leonard? And my goal was fighting Ray Leonard. That's what I wanted to do. I wondered, if I can't beat this guy, how can I beat Ray Leonard? I ended up fighting Floyd Mayweather. Fought him twice. And Floyd had much game at that time. But I was a fighter that can do anything. I can fight and I can box. And I beat him twice. And then they put me up with up and coming Donald Curry. Donald Curry was supposed to be a big name guy there. Once again, I didn't have a big promoter or nothing. I fought Donald Curry. I beat him the first time. They made it a split decision and gave it to Donald Curry. I knew I beat Donald Curry that day. The only fight I could say, you know what? I got out of the ring and said, this guy beat me. Donald Curry beat me in and I think it was 1984. Donald Curry beat me. And I got out of that fight and said, this guy beat me that day. This guy had a better day than I did. I mean, he got beat up, but he landed the most punches.
I remember talking to you about that, and and we were saying, man, all these losses, every one of them was a majority decision, a split decision, a draw that everybody else said you won. And, you said to me flat out, you said, there's only really one fight that I knew I lost, and you said it was that Donald Curry fight.
Billy, I got to tell you that. I mean, that's, you know, that's hard when a man says, you know, this guy beat me. And I was, you know, but I always wondered if, you know, he beat me that day because he was better prepared. That's why Donald Curry beat me that day. I knew when Lloyd Huntington came around, or I said, no way. When I first looked at Lloyd Huntington on tape, I said, wow, this guy's strong. A couple of weeks before the fight, I said, this guy ain't gonna hit me in the butt. I told my guys, I said, you know what? I'm gonna make this guy quit. I'm gonna make this guy want to be my friend by the middle of the fight. And by the 6th round, he was holding his hands out to give me shapes. I didn't want nothing to do with it.
Marlon, we got to go. One last thing. You know, I said earlier that you know, you go to the International Boxing Hall of Fame every year. Not for any other reason other than to, you know, hang out with the fans and stuff, and that's something that, you know, I know you enjoy and the fans enjoy. Could you explain to us and our viewers and listeners, you know, what kind of feelings you get? How do you feel when, you know, you get that you know, rush of fans that come up and remember you and know who you are and you know, they talk to you and give you the accolades that you deserve? I mean, what goes through your mind? How does that feel for you, being on the other side of the table, so to speak?
Well, you know, what I get from the Boxing Hall of Fame is I get the respect. I get, you know, they make me feel that my career was worth it. That's why I want to give them as much as they give me. I look forward to going up there every year just for the fans. I don't get paid for it. It takes money out of my pocket, but you know what? You only live once in life.
Boxing benefited from a fighter like you, Marlon, and I certainly have benefited for you know, having you as a friend. And we look forward to having you come back on this show as often as you want, brother. So whenever you want, you just give me a call, and we'd love to have you back. All right?
Hey, Billy, see, I appreciate it, and keep doing what you're doing.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
You take care of you.
That's my main man, Marlon Starlin. And, you know, listen, if you've never met this guy, you know, he's one of the best. He's one of the best. He's one of the most underrated fighters. People talk about great fighters of today. They couldn't have come close with my man, Marlon. Trust me when I tell you, he's far and few in between, like Marlon Starlin. Marlon Starlin we talked about today with our blast, and, man, was I glad that we finally got him on the show as well, because well-deserved. Marlon Starlin, my main man.
Wake up. It's time for the It's Too Early for a Trivia Question.
Today's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question is being brought to us by Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, New York. Check them out, 718-797-2872, 718-797-2872. And don't forget about this year's boxing fantasy camp at Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn, New York. And by the way, they got a couple of other locations. One is in Manhattan, and the other's in the Jersey Shore. Not with Snooki or nothing like that. But anyway, today's It's Too Early for a Trivia Question is being delivered to us by Henry Haskell, the trivia question guru. And, you know, he's always correcting me. You know, I'm either reading the correct question wrong or leaving an important part of it out. And he sends me an email yesterday. He's like, man, you know, you're confusing the hell out of these listeners because, you know, this particular card that this fight was on, there were some preliminary bouts before the main one that they're never going to get. So I've been instructed to reword the question. Which world championship fight was the first to use 4 ropes? Which world championship fight was the first to use 4 ropes? If you know the answer to this, email me, Billy at TalkinBoxing. That's TalkinBoxing.com. And you'll win the prize, man. That's for sure.
This day in boxing history.
And finally, this day in boxing history is being brought to us by Campanaro and Tomkovich. That's right. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That is Campanaro and Tomkovich. Give them a call today, 845-221-4099, 845-221-4099. Let Campanera and Tomkovich knock out your legal problem. 845-221-4099. On this day, March 6th, back in 1993. This would have been a good fight with my man Marlon Starlin if Pernell Whitaker would have gotten in the ring with him a couple of years earlier. But on this day, March 6th in 1993, Sweet Pea, Pernell Whitaker, wins a 12-round decision over James Buddy McGirt to win the WBC World Welterweight title, and that took place on this day, March 6th in 1993 in New York City. Hey, man, don't forget, mark it down. Our new show is kicking off on Monday. It's called Billy C's Talk to Me, Man, and it's going to be all about you. That's right. You're going to be driving the show, and we're just going to be steering the bus. That's it. Oh, yeah. You know what? I do have one other thing to say, and, well... Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, same bad time, same bad channel. Well, there's only one channel, the Fight Now channel. Call your local television provider and tell them you want the Fight Now channel added to your sports channel lineup. It's that simple. Pick up the phone and call for all the information. Visit their website, www.fightnow.com. See you all tomorrow. Ciao, baby.